Commander Vex-Nine clicked his mandibles in what passed for amusement among the Korthak species. The holographic display before him showed yet another burning world, its atmosphere glowing orange as plasma bombardments rained down from orbit. 317 systems had fallen to their fleet in the past solar rotation, 317 civilizations reduced to ash and memory. "Sir, the Belfari delegation is requesting mercy terms again," announced Lieutenant Zach Prime, his voice carrying that delicious tremor of fear that made conquering so satisfying. The young officer's carapace still gleamed with newness, unmarked by battle scars. "Mercy." Vex-Nine's laugh sounded like grinding metal plates. "Tell them the same thing we told the Andrelians. Surrender everything. Or watch their homeworld burn like a dying star." The bridge of the dreadnought Bone Crusher hummed with malevolent energy. Weapon systems charged and ready, shields at maximum capacity, engines purring with the power to obliterate solar systems. For 50 standard years, the Korthak hegemony had carved a bloody path through the galaxy's outer rim. No force had stood against them. No alliance had proven strong enough to halt their advance. They were the apex predators of space, and everyone else was prey. "Commander," called out Tactical Officer Mach 7 from his station, "we're receiving a transmission from the occupied Virillian system. The resistance cells are attempting another uprising." Vex-Nine's 4 eyes rotated independently, a sign of supreme irritation. "Again? Those insects never learn. Order the Fang of Despair to glass their capital city. Make it slow. Let them watch their monuments melt before they die." "Already in progress, sir. Estimated completion in 6 solar minutes." "Excellent." The commander settled back into his command throne, a grotesque thing constructed from the bones of fallen enemies. "What's our next target?" "The Terran system, sir. Preliminary scans show a single inhabited world, primitive technology, minimal defenses. They call themselves humans." "Humans." Vex-Nine rolled the word around like a piece of rotten fruit. "How pathetically soft that sounds. 1 world, you said?" "Confirmed, sir. Population approximately 8 billion. They possess basic space flight capability, but nothing that could threaten even our oldest cruisers." "Perfect. We'll make an example of them. Broadcast the extermination across all occupied systems. Let the other species see what happens to those who dare exist in our galaxy." The Bone Crusher and its escort fleet of 12 destroyer-class vessels began their approach to the Sol system. Vex-Nine allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Soon, the humans would join the long list of extinct species in his personal log. Another footnote in the glorious expansion of the Korthak Empire. 3 solar days later, as they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, something was wrong. "Sir." Mach 7's voice cracked with confusion. "I'm detecting an anomaly." "Specify." "There's a vessel holding position between us and the 3rd planet. Single ship, approximately 1,200 meters in length." Vex-Nine's mandibles clicked rapidly. "One ship? Are you certain your sensors aren't malfunctioning?" "Negative, sir. The readings are clear. It's just sitting there." "Sitting there?" The commander rose from his throne, all 4 arms gesturing in agitation. "Then what kind of tactical formation is that? Where's their fleet? Their defensive grid?" "There is no fleet, sir. No defensive grid, no orbital platforms. Just that one ship." Lieutenant Zach Prime leaned forward, his young voice filled with bravado. "Perhaps they're surrendering before we even fire a shot. The smart ones usually do." But Vex-Nine had survived 50 years of warfare by trusting his instincts, and right now, every survival sense he possessed was screaming danger. No species faced the Korthak hegemony with a single ship. It was either supreme stupidity or supreme confidence. Magnify the vessel on screen. The holographic display shimmered and resolved into a detailed image that made the entire bridge fall silent. The human ship was unlike anything in their databases, where Korthak vessels were all spikes and aggressive angles. This thing was smooth, almost organic in its curves. It didn't look like a warship. It looked like a predator sleeping in deep water. Commander, Mach 7's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm reading energy signatures I've never seen before. The power output from that single vessel is, sir. It's reading higher than our entire fleet combined. That's impossible. Run the scan again. I've run it 4 times, sir. The readings are consistent. Vex-Nine stared at the image. The ship bore markings in what he assumed was the human language, simple letters that spelled out a name, though he couldn't pronounce it properly, something that looked like UES, retribution. Open a communication channel, he commanded. Let's see what these humans have to say for themselves. The transmission crackled to life, and a voice filled the bridge. It was calm, almost conversational, with an accent that somehow conveyed both amusement and menace. Well, well, well. If it isn't the famous Korthak hegemony, we've been hearing about you folks for quite some time now. 317 systems, wasn't it? Impressive body count. Vex-Nine's carapace bristled. I am Commander Vex-Nine of the... Yeah, Commander whatever 9 of the Bone Crusher. We know who you are. Question is, do you know who we are? You're about to be extinct. A sound came through the communication system that took Vex-Nine a moment to identify. The human was laughing. Actually laughing. Oh, that's rich. That's really rich. Tell me, Commander, in all your conquests, have you ever encountered a species that fought back effectively? All species fight back. They all lose. Right? But I mean really fought back. Like made you sweat a little? Made you think twice? Because from what we've observed, you've been picking on civilizations that are basically armed with pointed sticks and harsh language. The commander's 4 arms clenched into fists. Your world will burn for your insolence. See, that's where you're wrong. Our world isn't going to burn, but yours? Well, that's a different story entirely. Suddenly, the human ship moved. Not accelerated, not maneuvered, moved. 1 second it was 12,000 kilometers away. The next it was 300 meters off their port bow. The Bone Crusher's sensors hadn't even registered the transition. How did they Zack Prime began? Sir. Mach 7's voice cracked with panic. Their weapons are charging. All ships, open fire. Destroy that vessel. The Korthak fleet unleashed hell, plasma cannons that could melt asteroids, particle beams that could slice through moon-sized debris, missile swarms that could devastate entire orbital platforms. Every weapon system designed to bring terror to the galaxy focused on the lone human ship. The barrage hit the Retribution dead center and accomplished absolutely nothing. The human ship sat there, completely unharmed, as if the most devastating firepower in the galaxy had been nothing more than a light summer rain. Damage report. Vex-Nine screamed. Sir, their shields, they're not even registering the impact. It's like we're firing at empty space. The communication channel crackled back to life, and the human voice was still conversational, still amused. You know, that was actually kind of rude. We were having a nice chat, and you just started shooting. Where we come from. That's considered poor manners. Impossible. Our weapons can destroy planets. Oh, they probably can. Against rocks and gas balls, but see. Here's the thing you apparently missed in all your research about humanity. We don't just build ships. We build ships that are designed to fight other ships that are designed to fight ships that are designed to fight other ships. It's called an arms race. And we've been doing it for about as long as we've had opposable thumbs. The Retribution began to glow. Not with the harsh light of charging weapons, but with something that seemed almost alive, organic, hungry. Let me explain something to you, Commander Vex-Nine. You've spent 50 years terrorizing farmers and merchants and poets. We've spent 500 years perfecting the art of making other humans very, very dead. And humans? We're really, really good at killing things that need killing. All ships, ramming speed. Overwhelm them with mass. But as the Korthak vessels accelerated toward the human ship, something extraordinary happened. The Retribution didn't fire weapons in any conventional sense. Instead, reality around it seemed to shift. The first destroyer simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, engines blazing. The next it was gone, not destroyed, not vaporized. Gone as if the universe had decided it never existed in the first place. What happened to the Talon of Wrath? Zack Prime's voice was high with terror. Sir, I'm not reading debris. I'm not reading anything. It's just not there anymore. The second destroyer met a different fate. Its hull began to twist and fold in ways that hurt to look at, as if space itself was being origami folded around the ship. The screams of its crew echoed across the communication channels before cutting off abruptly. Commander, the human voice continued, still conversational. You might want to call off your attack before we run out of creative ways to demonstrate why picking a fight with humanity was a poor life choice. Vex-Nine's mandibles clicked frantically. Retreat. All ships retreat to hyperspace. But as the remaining vessels attempted to disengage, they found their engines unresponsive, not damaged, not offline. Simply unresponsive, as if the ship's computer had decided that leaving was not currently an option. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to leave? That's awkward. See, we've been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time. Ever since you started your little galactic terror tour, we've been waiting for you to work your way around to us. A third destroyer imploded, its hull compressing into a sphere roughly the size of a soccer ball before winking out of existence. The thing is, the human continued, we humans have this weird quirk. We really don't like bullies. And you folks? You're pretty much the textbook definition of cosmic bullies. What do you want? Vex-Nine's voice cracked with desperation. Want? We want you to stop terrorizing innocent civilizations. We want you to return what you've stolen. We want you to make reparations for the 317 worlds you've destroyed. But mostly, we want you to understand that your days of being the big bad monsters in this galaxy are officially over. Another destroyer simply stopped. Its engines continued to run, its lights remained on, but the ship became perfectly motionless in space, as if it had been frozen in time. You see, Commander, while you've been busy playing Conqueror, we've been busy advancing. Turns out, when a species spends its entire evolutionary history trying to kill itself more efficiently, it develops some pretty interesting technologies. The remaining ships of the Korthak fleet hung helpless in space, their crews watching in growing horror as the human vessel demonstrated capabilities that shouldn't exist. So here's what's going to happen. The human voice continued. You're going to order all Korthak forces to withdraw from occupied territories. You're going to release all prisoners and slaves. You're going to provide full reparations to every world you've damaged. And you're going to do all of this very quickly. And if we refuse? The pause that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds. When the human spoke again, all trace of amusement was gone from his voice. Commander, you've just watched us delete 4 of your ships from reality using technologies you can't even begin to comprehend. Do you really want to find out what we do to species that refuse our generous offer? The silence on the bridge of the Bone Crusher stretched like a taut wire. Commander Vex-Nine's 4 eyes darted between his terrified crew and the motionless human vessel that had just casually erased 4 warships from existence. His mandibles clicked nervously as he processed the impossible reality before him. Commander, Lieutenant Zack Prime whispered, his voice barely audible, what are your orders? Before Vex-Nine could respond, the human voice returned. But this time it carried a different tone, less conversational, more businesslike. I'm detecting elevated stress hormones from your crew, Commander. Heart rate spiking. Adrenaline flooding your systems. That's understandable. But let me ease your minds about one thing. We're not here to commit genocide. That's your specialty, not ours. The holographic display flickered, and suddenly the bridge was filled with images. Hundreds of worlds, all bearing the scars of Korthak conquest, burned cities, empty orbital stations, memorial sites where entire species once thrived. We've been watching you for quite some time. The human continued. Every system you've conquered, every civilization you've exterminated, we've been taking notes. Tactical Officer Mach 7's voice cracked as he spoke. Sir, I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. Something's coming. Oh, that would be the rest of the family, the human said. And Vex-9 could hear the smile in his voice. You didn't think we'd send just one ship to deal with an entire galactic empire, did you? Space around the Sol system began to ripple and tear, not the clean, predictable distortions of normal hyperspace travel, but something far more sophisticated. Reality itself seemed to fold and unfold as ship after ship materialized. But these weren't the massive dreadnoughts that the Korthak expected. These were smaller vessels, sleek and predatory, each one radiating the same impossible energy signature as the Retribution. 50 ships, 100. 200. Meet the Terran Defense Fleet, the human announced. Well, actually, this is just the advanced scout group. The main fleet is still having coffee and discussing whether you're worth the fuel expenditure. Vex-9's carapace began to shed stress-molting flakes. How many ships do you have? Honestly, we stopped counting after the first million. Turns out, when you're not busy genociding your neighbors, you have a lot more time and resources to devote to interesting engineering projects. The commander's mind reeled. 1 million ships? That was more vessels than the entire Korthak hegemony had ever constructed in its 5-century history. But here's the thing, the human continued, we really don't want to use them. Violence should be a last resort, don't you think? So we're going to try something different, something we call diplomacy. Diplomacy? Vex-9 spat the word like poison. The Korthak do not negotiate. Oh, but you see, that's where you're wrong. You're going to learn to negotiate very quickly, because the alternative is extinction. Not genocide, mind you. Just irrelevance. The display changed again, showing a detailed map of Korthak space, every conquered system, every occupied world, every military installation glowed with targeting indicators. We know where every single one of your ships is located, the human explained patiently. We know your supply lines, your communication networks, your command structure. We've been planning this intervention for 37 years. That's how long it took us to develop technology sufficient to deal with a species that thinks murder is a valid diplomatic tool. Suddenly, Lieutenant Zach Prime's station began chiming urgently. Sir, I'm receiving reports from across the hegemony. Our fleets they're being disabled. Define disabled. Vex-9 growled. The crews are alive, but the ships are completely non-functional. Weapons offline. Engines dead, life support running on emergency power. It's happening everywhere simultaneously. The human voice returned, carrying that same dangerous amusement. We figured we'd start with the non-violent approach. Every Korthak vessel in occupied space has just been decommissioned, temporarily, of course. We're not monsters. How is this possible? Vex-9 demanded. No species has this kind of reach. Commander, let me explain something about humans that you clearly failed to research. We're not just one species anymore. We're a collective of 17 different human variants, each specialized for different environments and purposes. The folks you're talking to right now? We're the Void Walkers. We specialize in, let's call it aggressive problem solving. The display showed images of humans unlike anything in the Korthak databases. Tall, impossibly thin beings with eyes like black holes, others with skin that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. Still others who appeared to be more machine than organic. You see, while you were busy being cosmic bullies, we were busy evolving, adapting, becoming something more than what we started as. The baseline humans back on Earth? They're like our beloved grandparents. Karens, we love them dearly. But they're not the ones you need to worry about. Mach 7's voice interrupted, high with panic. Commander, our own weapons systems are shutting down. I can't access any primary systems. That would be my colleague Marcus Webb, aboard the UUES. Peacemaker, the human explained. He's really good with computer systems. Apparently, your cybersecurity protocols were designed by the same people who thought conquering the galaxy was a sustainable business model. The Bone Crusher's lights flickered and dimmed. Emergency power kicked in, bathing the bridge in an eerie red glow. Now, before you start panicking, the human continued, let me assure you that your life support systems are completely untouched. We're not trying to kill you. We're trying to educate you. What do you want? Vex-Nine's voice was barely a whisper. I want you to make a choice, Commander. Option 1. The Korthak hegemony acknowledges its crimes, withdraws from all occupied territories, provides full reparations to surviving populations, and agrees to a supervised rehabilitation program. Option 2. The Korthak hegemony ceases to exist as a political entity. You're threatening to destroy us? Destroy? No, that would be genocide. And we're not you. We're threatening to make you irrelevant. Every Korthak world will be quarantined. Your ships will be permanently disabled. Your technology will be repurposed. Your species will be confined to your original home system until you learn to play nicely with others. The holographic display shifted to show the Korthak homeworld, a harsh, volcanic planet covered in industrial complexes and military installations. We've taken the liberty of disabling your planetary defense grid, the human mentioned casually, also your global communication network and your military command structure. Oh, and we've deposited approximately 2 million humanitarian aid packages in your major population centers. Humanitarian aid? Vex-Nine's mandibles clicked in confusion. Food, medicine, educational materials. Turns out, when you're not spending 90% of your resources on military expansion, you can actually take care of your people. Who knew? Tian. Lieutenant Zach Prime looked up from his console, his young face pale with shock. Sir, I'm receiving reports from the homeworld. The population they're celebrating. They're actually celebrating. That's the thing about oppressive regimes, the human explained. The people in charge always assume everyone else is on board with the program. But turns out, most Korthak citizens were just as horrified by your genocidal campaigns as everyone else in the galaxy. The communication channel crackled with new voices, Korthak voices. But these were different, younger, hopeful, speaking in dialects that hadn't been heard in official communications for decades. Commander Vex-Nine, one of them said, this is Counselor Thex Alpha of the Korthak Civilian Authority. We are formally requesting your surrender and the transfer of all military assets to civilian control. Vex-Nine's world crumbled around him. Thex Alpha? You're supposed to be dead. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. It's amazing how quickly a resistance movement can organize when friendly aliens provide them with untraceable communication equipment. The human voice returned, tinged with satisfaction. We've been in contact with Korthak civilian leadership for about 20 years now. Lovely people. Once you get past the whole living under a military dictatorship thing. This is impossible, Vex-Nine muttered. We are the Korthak hegemony. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. The human corrected gently. Past tense, you were the apex predators. Now you're just another species learning to coexist with your neighbors. The retribution moved closer to the Bone Crusher, its impossible bulk dwarfing even the massive Korthak dreadnought, but instead of weapons, it extended what appeared to be docking clamps. Commander, the human said, we're going to take you and your crew home. There are some people who would like to have a conversation with you about war crimes and reparations. Don't worry, though. We're not going to execute you. We're going to do something far worse. What? Vex-Nine whispered. We're going to make you help fix what you broke. The docking clamp secured to the Bone Crusher's hull with surprising gentleness. The human ship's superior technology made resistance impossible, but it also made the process completely painless. You're going to spend the rest of your lives working to rebuild the civilizations you destroyed, the human explained. You're going to help relocate displaced populations, reconstruct devastated worlds, and provide aid to the survivors of your conquests. It's called community service, and it's remarkably effective at teaching empathy. And if we refuse, then you'll sit in comfortable confinement until you change your minds. We're very patient people, Commander. We've got all the time in the universe. As the Bone Crusher was towed toward the waiting Terran fleet, Vex-Nine stared at the impossible sight before him. Hundreds of human ships, each one capable of feats that defied physics, each one crewed by beings who had transcended the limitations of their original biology. How? He asked, the question torn from his very soul. How did you become so powerful? The human's voice was quiet now, almost sad. We learned from our mistakes, Commander. We spent thousands of years fighting each other, destroying ourselves, making the same stupid errors over and over again. But eventually. We figured out that cooperation was more powerful than conquest, that building was more satisfying than destroying, that protecting the weak was more heroic than preying on them. The retribution began to accelerate toward the inner system, its cargo of former galactic conquerors secure in its hold. The universe is big enough for everyone, Vex-Nine. There's room for every species to grow, to thrive, to become something magnificent. But there's no room for bullies. Not anymore. As they passed Earth, Vex-Nine saw something that shattered his worldview completely. The planet was green and blue and beautiful, covered in cities of impossible architecture and orbital habitats that looked like floating gardens. It was a world that had clearly never known war, never known the harsh realities of galactic conquest. That's home, the human said softly. That's what we're protecting. Not just our world, but the idea that every world could be like that, peaceful, prosperous, free. The Bone Crusher and its escort of human ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying the last remnants of the Korthak hegemony toward a future they had never imagined. Behind them, the Sol system returned to its quiet watch over the galaxy, and the universe became a slightly safer place. In the months that followed, the galaxy would learn that the age of conquest was over, the age of cooperation had begun. And it had been brought about not by the strongest weapons or the largest fleets, but by a species that had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the best way to win a war is to refuse to fight it. The humans had won not through superior firepower, but through superior wisdom, and the galaxy would never be the same again.